Welcome back. So good to have you along on this Monday. In just 2 hours, we will hear from CEOs and city leaders in St. Paul about the future of downtown St. Paul. Fox 9's Randy Meyer will be hosting a roundtable discussion at the St. Paul Hotel. The topic, the future of St. Paul's downtown district. They will talk about the empty offices and storefronts that are challenging our capital city. They'll also talk about the future of the Grand Casino Arena and other event venues that could be key to a downtown recovery. You can watch it live on the Fox local app starting at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Well, thanks so much for joining us on this Monday for the Fox 9 Morning News. Have a great rest of your day. I'll hope to see you again tomorrow for the Fox 9 Morning News and back here at 11. Enjoy this first day of spring. Next up, Fox 9 All Day, which gets going in just a couple of seconds. Have yourself a great day.
Hi everybody, welcome to All Day Live. I'm Amy Hockert. It is straight up noon and we're really glad that you're with us here for the next couple of hours. St. Paul Day here on All Day Live. We have St. Paul Mayor Melvin Carter who's going to join us here in just a minute. And that comes ahead of something that's kind of going to bookend us here. We have a roundtable discussion coming up later this afternoon that we'll talk more about on the future of downtown St. Paul. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? It's a panel of some great leaders that are going to come together and have a really good discussion led by our Randy Meyer. So we'll tell you more about that in a little bit. Of course, we're going to talk sports because so much happened. It's Victory Monday today. We have the Vikings just dominating that game against the Bengals. Incredible defensive performance. On offense, we got to see a couple of different quarterbacks, including Max Brosmer from the U, and we've got Coach Randy Hedberg from NDSU, who was Carson Wentz's quarterback coach. That guy, talk about a quarterback whisperer. I think he's one for the colleges. So we're going to talk with him as well. Lauren is here with some road closures. I guess she got some new information on some things you might want to know about. And then a little bit later, we're going to break down the increase in political violence. We're talking with an organization out of the UK that's been tracking this kind of thing for 20 years, and they really do a deep dive into what's been happening, even up through the last couple of weeks with the death of Charlie Kirk. So some very recent numbers for you, and we're going to go through all of that here in just a little while as well. Before we get to the mayor, just a couple of quick headlines here. So Turning Point USA is the organization that was founded by conservative activist Charlie Kirk. They're actually at the University of Minnesota campus today. This was actually a scheduled stop on his American comeback tour before he was shot and killed in Utah. It was just about 12 days ago now. They will not be doing Kirk's trademark Prove Me Wrong tent setup. That's what you saw at the Utah Valley University and others, where people can come to the mic and debate. Instead, what they have is a different event tonight at Northrop at 6:30. Conservative Speaker Michael Knowles has said that he's going to be there facilitating that conversation and asking for questions from the audience. Of course, security top of mind. So put in a couple of calls last week to the Youth Public Safety Office. Didn't actually hear anything back, but we did get a statement from President Cunningham acknowledging that there is anxiety and says that they've definitely increased security today and tonight. So again, that Northrop event is happening tonight at 6:30. Yesterday, you may have seen tens of thousands of people gathering in Arizona for his memorial. Kirk's widow, Erica, spoke. A lot of people talking about the fact that she said she forgives her husband's killer and then has vowed now to continue his mission with Turning Point USA. So again, Northrop, it is sold out. You had to pre-register tonight. 18 plus small clear bags only will be allowed. And then there is a vigil for Charlie Kirk tonight at 7 p.m. at the state capitol. So we'll have some of that streaming on our YouTube channel if you want to jump over there and check some of that out from time to time. And then, as I mentioned, throughout the couple of hours here, we're definitely going to hit on the massive sports victories over the weekend. I mentioned the Vikings, but really the Lynx are the story that we need to be talking more more about. Took down the Phoenix Mercury, game 1 of the semifinals. This is a tough Phoenix team. They are very physical, and it was a pretty even match, but you just kind of have seen the Lynx pull ahead at the end and clinch it, and they sure did that yesterday. So game 1 in the books for this second round is the semifinals of the WNBA finals here. Again, we'll talk more Vikings, so much there. Some new folks, old folks that came back, former folks that came back, and then I think we have 2 words on the Timberwolves side, Naz Reid, and I think the 2 words for the Vikings is Isaiah Rodgers. I mean, that guy just lit it up. It was pretty phenomenal. All right, let's do this. Let's just jump right into it here. It is time now to do what we like to do about once a month here. We check in with different impactful leaders in our community and just really get a feel for how things are going. You guys are good. You guys are good. We just got a little slide of the water over here just in time. Mayor Melvin Carter, St. Paul, it is a pleasure to host you here today.
It's wonderful to be on. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. I know
my voice is hoarse from the Lynx game yesterday.
Were you there?
Oh, absolutely. We took the kids and had a blast. It was amazing.
It was a great game to be at.
Yes.
I know a lot of people with a hoarse voice today, and that's just game 1. It's going to be a great season.
But I didn't have my usual yelling at the TV for the Vikings game, so my voice was rested a little bit.
You didn't have to, right? Well, you've had a busy day already. We're going to have something on later tonight in our newscast about the press conference you just held a little while ago, and then we know that we'll talk about this roundtable that's happening after we're done here. But there are some things I just wanted to talk with you about now that we have this opportunity here live. You had a busy summer. Obviously,
Indeed.
A very busy summer. I don't know how you all kind of managed that. I don't know how much sleep you must have gotten. I'm looking over at your team over here as well, but somehow, some way, you've come out of that. And I guess I wanted to start there with the ransomware attack. Tell us where we're at right now as far as if you were to go. Are we 80% back? Are we 90? Are we 100? Are we 50?
That's a great question. And you're right. Our teams worked 24/7, literally around the clock. That's not a metaphor. We were in our emergency operations center right during the height of that cyber attack. There were folks, no names named. There were folks in that emergency operations center who I saw with the same shirt on multiple days in a row. And it's really incredible the way our team kind of did that. The way we do it. You said you don't know how. It's because we have an incredible staff, an incredible team. Our emergency management department and our Office of Technology and Communications just identified it quickly. They fought it off, and they did everything that they needed to do quickly to secure those kind of spaces. Our first promise was to say that we were going to make sure that our public safety services would continue uninterrupted. They did, and from there, the goal was to say, look, a lot of our city employees did enormous work to be able to continue the continuity of city operations. And so many of our employees may not have had access for some point in time to different applications and different software that they're used to, but they all, literally all, kind of pushed forward to continue to be able to provide frontline public services. And so most of our front-facing services are back up and running now. Just in the last week, we got public Wi-Fi in city buildings back up. That's something that
libraries,
a lot of folks rely on.
rec centers,
that's
huge.
Exactly right. That's something that I mean, the internet is not a luxury these days.
Right.
I mean, it's if you want to take a class or apply for a job, you have to be on the internet. So that's really important. There's a couple of systems that we're still working to kind of bring online, but all of those are kind of back-end kind of systems that our city employees use. And so a big round of applause. I mean, my hat goes off to all of our city employees for fighting us through that thing.
Yeah, we don't have to get into a lot of detail, but for those who are watching you now and maybe hadn't heard or haven't been following, we know it was a ransomware attack, but no ransom was paid.
No, we didn't pay the ransom. Our teams worked literally in the first like 24 to 48 hours after we identified this suspicious activity. Yeah. Our teams worked really fast to do a citywide backup of all of our data. So we knew from the beginning that they wouldn't be able to lock us out of our own data.
Okay.
The threat that they made, they do a kind of a dual threat, which is one, I'm either going to lock you out of your data, I'm going to encrypt it and lock you out. We knew that was off the table. Or they say, I'm going to release some of your data. So they released a little bit of data. They released about 43 gigabytes.
Okay.
We host over 500 terabytes of data on our systems, and they released 43 gigabytes. And so, we're still in the process of combing through a lot of that and determining what was in that. But on the whole, our team did incredibly.
Okay, and employees impacted here. General public, though, people are worried about their social security numbers,
That's
things
right.
like that. We just want to reiterate.
That's right. City government doesn't have most people's social security numbers. there's what they released was kind of our city employees and one of our departments, our Parks and Rec departments, a sort of discretionary drives that they can save whatever they want on. In some cases it's a family recipe, in some cases it could be a W-9. So out of an abundance of caution, we funded a full year of identity theft protection insurance and credit monitoring for all of our city employees, whether their names were in that dump or not.
Can I give you another scale to judge here on 1 to 10 and moving forward? If you were to say, I feel confident that we are set up, knowing there's no guarantees, we are set up for future potential attacks. Where are you on that? 10 being we have thrown the kitchen sink at this thing and then some.
We've definitely thrown the kitchen sink and then some at it. We have, in the last 2 months, we have done forensic kind of evaluation and analysis of every single system and software that our city runs. We have reset over 3,500, well, I say over 3,400 city staff's passwords. We have just under 100 to go.
That was an ordeal.
That was an ordeal.
Itself, yeah.
I have the longest password of my life right now. So we did that. We installed heightened cybersecurity software on every device in the city, so that was a big lift as well. And so, we're pretty well poised. Every cybersecurity expert will tell you that every system is susceptible. In the last month, Google announced that they had been attacked and had, somebody had released some of their data. So literally every system is susceptible, and it's the same as anything. The smarter the antivirus stuff gets, the smarter the viruses get, and so it's one of those things where you're never done with.
Yeah.
And so yes, we've thrown everything in the kitchen sink at it, but that won't cover us for tomorrow. We got to throw it at it tomorrow as well.
Well, it's interesting. At the time this happened, you were getting prepared to pull together your budget and roll that out. I'm curious. Is there a cost, even a ballpark cost, of what the mitigation and recovery and time loss, all of this stuff is costing? And then how did you have to go back into your budget, original budget, and go? I got to redline all this stuff now. How did that work?
We did do some adjustments of our original budget to just, of course, there was a significant office, employee overtime expense as folks were sleeping at the Emergency Operations Center. There was a cost to putting that heightened cybersecurity software on all of our devices citywide. Certainly an enormous cost to this big lift to, in 3 days' time, reset over 3,000 passwords in face-to-face in person. So there is an enormous cost to that. We are still kind of getting our arms around it. But that cost is going to be well over $1 million, but also I'd say less expensive than not doing it.
Okay. And when you had to go back into the budget, were there things that you had to cut out that really were tough, but given the circumstances, you had to go back in?
Well, it was already a tough budget, and it's one of the reasons why our levy proposal is, I think, lower than any other city that I've seen this year, because there's so much pressures on cities right now. And so we had already kind of done an enormous amount of kind of pushing down. So we ended up adding some of for example, we've been on this mission over the past few years to boost our cybersecurity posture, and the cyber attack caused us to accelerate some of that. That had for example, the heightened cybersecurity software that we put on all of our devices citywide. The goal was to sort of spread that out over a number of years, but we decided to push it kind of forward, and so there's a cost associated with that. And so yes, we pulled that into our budget proposal for this year. And of course, the City Council is. We're all supportive of cybersecurity efforts here.
Yeah, that's one thing you probably wouldn't have too much friction on. So as we talk about the budget, I mean, affordable housing has been something you've been continue to invest in. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing specifically to bolster that. Yeah,
we have to do every single thing that we can, and this is from my budget address. We have to do everything that we can to build as much housing as we can, as fast as we possibly can, and so that means being able to help subsidize in some cases. For example, we passed a plan for folks to be able to, it's called ADUs, accessory dwelling units. If you want to build a accessory housing in your backyard, you have the ability to do it. Not a lot of folks have done it because it's complicated and it's very expensive. So one of the things, for example, in my budget is to say, one, the city's going to buy I think 10 to 12 plans that are pre-approved, so that you already know you have the approval. Here's a plan. You don't have to buy a plan for yourself. And then 2, we also propose to the City Council that we'll actually subsidize some of that. One of the biggest expenses of it is just running utilities into the backyard, or running utilities from the house into the backyard. And so to try to help folks kind of cover the cost of that, we have to build as much as possible. That's obviously a one-to-one kind of thing. Yeah. But then from there, we have big opportunities. I shared in my budget address that 2 of our most urgent challenges right now are pushing our momentum downtown. We'll have a big conversation about that later, and adding housing. The opportune thing is, one of the biggest opportunities we have to add housing is downtown, and one of the biggest opportunities we have to boost our downtown is to add housing, so those 2 things go really well together. One of our core goals is taking some of those old office buildings in St. Paul and every suburb and every city across the planet. As our work patterns have shifted since the pandemic, much more of our office space has become empty. In St. Paul, we have a significant amount, about 30% of our office spaces are empty. So there's a big opportunity that we have there to turn old offices into new housing. And so we're doing everything that we can to facilitate that. And I'm really excited about this system called Poly that we put online last week. That we've been working on literally for years, that gives us the capacity to accept permit applications online, to process certain permit applications literally same day, to accept payment online. People can log on and they can kind of see their status or in their process online. And for the first time ever, we have the capacity to even inspect some permits right online through like a camera phone. Oh, wow. And so that makes that process faster and smoother and less expensive. And so that's what I mean when I say everything that we can to build as much housing as we can, as much as possible. We're going to help bear some of the costs. We're going to revisit all of our policies and all of our processes to make it clear how much we welcome building and investment in this city.
You also invested, if I read right, in fighting the opioid fentanyl crisis. That's right. It was $1 million that you had set aside for that. I wanted to talk a little bit about that, just in terms of, I mean, just some of the research, and everybody I think knows this, but it's worth reiterating. You know, 2024, New England Journal of Medicine, fentanyl rapidly becoming the deadliest cause of death with American teens. Yes. Something like in 2022, 22 high schoolers died every week from overdosing on fentanyl-laced prescription pills, and these are not the kid you might think of. This is the kid who's trying to stay up to study late and is getting something from his friend that he got from somebody else. So I mean, we cover news all the time, and I still feel like we don't talk about this enough, and I don't know if it's because it's a drip, drip, drip problem that doesn't, you know, happen all at once, but how can you characterize this crisis from your perspective, you know, living in St. Paul, and it's everyone's problem, and what do you want to do specifically to try to battle this? You're right, it's literally everyone's problem. This is the largest drug crisis that we've ever experienced in our country. These drugs are so inexpensive, they're so small, they're so readily available, and they are impacting everybody. I mean, those are national statistics you just cited. They're impacting every city across the globe. Our police department, our staffs, our teams in our Office of Neighborhood Safety, our firefighters and paramedics have been working really hard, and we're fortunate and we're grateful. We've seen actually a decrease from last year to this year in the number of overdoses that we're experiencing in St. Paul, but this is also one of our most kind of critical and urgent things because the opioid crisis ends up reverberating through our homelessness crisis. I was going to ask you, how does it affect downtown? How does it affect some of these other areas, right? Quite a bit downtown along University Avenue, and it ends up echoing back in the form of kind of some quality of life challenges in communities that we have to really address. One, I'd say it's actually a privilege to be able to say our greatest public safety challenge right now is addressing some of those quality of life crises. That points to some of the successes that we've had on gun violence. 2 years ago, I said we're going to make St. Paul the best city to find opportunity, the worst city to fire a gun. We're making really good on that promise. My favorite message I've gotten this year was from our police chief, who showed me a text message from one of our gun sergeants who was trying to set up a gun buy with someone, and they texted back, "Not in St. Paul because you'll get caught."
And so we feel good that they're getting our message. That's translating in, we're on pace for a 15-year low in homicides and shots fired in our city, and so that's good. This year, what we said is, in the same way as we did a $1 million intervention 2 years ago around gun violence, we are mirroring essentially that effort by saying we're going to do a $1 million intervention around opioids to make St. Paul the best city to get clean or get sober if you're willing to do that, and the worst city to deal and sell opioids. And so that's work that'll involve our Office of Neighborhood Safety, our police department, our paramedics, and a number of community partners working together the St. Paul way, which includes both the intervention and enforcement side, but also being able to care for folks in crisis.
Yeah, I did want to. I wrote this down too. I think it's definitely important to note. So homicide rates, your crime numbers show a 10-year low. Aggravated assaults down 30%, and then obviously everyone's dealing with the fentanyl opioid crisis. Right. The other piece of this is when you mentioned the worst place to fire a gun, and yeah, cases of shots fired down 29%. You recently, after enunciation, joined a group of other metro area mayors calling for gun reform, and it sounds like you're asking the legislature, if you're not going to take this into your own hands, let us as the mayors do that. How do you see that playing out if this were to happen? How do you see that playing out, given that guns don't know borders, right? So if different cities have different rules, what do you think?
Well, this is one I think that everybody would rather the federal government or the state government act. Everybody I know is horrified by what happened at Annunciation. The fact that we lost 2 children is just unacceptable, and we ought to do everything that we possibly can. Also, everyone I know probably has the same instinct on what bold action Congress is likely to take, and I know Governor Walz is planning to call a special session. We hope to see that, and we appreciate his leadership where that's concerned. But we also have kind of probably a similar sense of what bold action our legislature is most likely to take in response to this happen. I always tell folks, cities are where crises go when they prove too hard for the federal government or the state government to address. We have folks in our communities who are living in tents. We have folks in our communities who don't have health care, and we have folks in our communities who are reeling from the impacts of gun violence in our communities. So our proposal to the state is we'd love to see the state ban assault rifles. If the state legislature is incapable of doing that, there's a preemption law that keeps cities from acting on their own. And it may be possible that what we need in St. Paul might be different than what some greater Minnesota city needs or what some greater Minnesota community needs. And so we ought to have the opportunity to keep ourselves safe in that way. So I've proposed to our city council, and our city council is planning on taking up and passing 4 very basic ordinances. One that would ban the public possession of assault rifles. I'm not saying you can't build them. I'm not saying you can't buy them. I'm not saying you can't sell them or you can't own them. If you want to go practice, for recreation at the gun range, so be it. If you own 100 acres and you want to practice on the hill, that doesn't bother me so much. I'm saying you don't need them on University Avenue. I'm saying you don't need them on Selby. You don't need them in our residential neighborhoods. And so the first one would ban public possession of assault rifles. The second would ban binary triggers and extended magazines that turn basic handguns into machine guns.
Increases speed, frequency, that kind of thing. Yeah.
That's right. Okay. The third would ban guns in libraries and rec centers and sensitive civic spaces. Okay. And the fourth would say every gun has to have a serial number. These are basic, simple things that I think have 2 things in common. One, most Minnesotans would say, well, that's the bare minimum. That's the least you should do. You should do a lot more than that. But 2, state law doesn't even let us do that much. And so we're going to pass that in St. Paul. We're in the process right now of recruiting other cities to propose those similar policies in their cities. And I think we need to have a big conversation about why, if everybody you know, everybody you go to church with, everybody you go to work with, everybody you live with, thinks these are the bare minimum standards that we ought to be doing, and the state legislature won't even allow us to do it. Not only they won't do it, they won't allow us to do it for ourselves. I think that demands a conversation.
Yeah, and just really quickly as we kind of wrap up here, and you say everybody and there's another side to this. If this was easy, we would have figured it out a long time ago, right? So when you hear other arguments, people who say, I just know, and they stand behind their constitutional rights, are you hearing them, or are you, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, you hear them, right? And what do you think? And then what do you say back to them?
I'll tell you, I'm a gun owner. My father was a sniper for the St. Paul SWAT team when he was a police officer. I grew up around guns, and when I say if you want to go to the range and practice, I enjoy going to the range and practicing. Like, I enjoy those things. I hear those things, absolutely. I think we all agree that there's some line to the Second Amendment. I think that we all agree we don't necessarily want our neighbors to have a nuclear missile or a rocket launcher or something along those lines. The question is kind of where's that line? Where does it make sense? And from my perspective, anybody who everybody who is mourning those children we lost at Annunciation, everybody who was at those funerals that we were at. We were at funerals that had ice cream trucks there for all the children. We were at funerals that passed out little arts and crafts in little plastic baggies for all the children who were there. That's unacceptable. And whatever document was signed hundreds of years ago, one of the things that that document says is that every single year we have to look through it and determine how do we best build a government, how do we best build a policy environment that best meets the needs of our children, that best meets the needs of our families and our countries. When we say that gun violence is killing our children, when we say that we had children in Minnesota just in the last several weeks who were in school, in a church, praying, and had bullets rain down on them in a way that didn't give them time to run, didn't give them time to hide, didn't give them time to fight. We have to do something different. The one thing I told our council, the one thing I've told our legislative partners, the only thing I'm unwilling to accept is the notion that we shouldn't do anything, that we shouldn't change anything. We have to change something. And so if somebody has a viable proposal on the table, I'd love to hear it. I'm not willing to accept us doing nothing.
Okay, you have to get going because you've got to be at this roundtable here coming up, and
you don't have any questions about the Vikings or the Lynx for me?
Next time.
You said it's Victory Monday in Minnesota.
I know, I tease it, and so one of this funny you mentioned that because one of the things, and we'll do this with you hopefully next time. This is your first time here. We're going to take it easy on you.
That's right.
But
this was easy.
This was easy.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. When we bring in, the Chief's been great on both sides, Minneapolis-St. Paul.
Yes.
Whoever comes in, we do really try to talk about what we need to talk about, but also, also just talk about kind of who you are and what you're about. And I think I don't know, I feel like everybody agrees that we can humanize each other just a little bit more in this world. So just rest assured, next time you're here, we'll do this. We'll take a break. We'll come back, and then we'll ask you all about the.
I'll look forward to it.
So thank you for being here. I'm going to talk more about the roundtable that you're going to be at a little bit later, coming up after the show. I'm looking forward to just a really rich conversation with
Indeed.
all of these folks, these leaders in the community in St. Paul. So thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me on.
Really appreciate your time. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more All Day Live right after this. Well, welcome back to All Day Live. We're really glad that you're here. It's 12:30, and we need to talk about last night. I don't know if you heard it maybe on your roof or you were maybe driving through of it, but we had a lot of rain, some hail for some folks as well. I think we have an image from, is it Minnetonka? Woo! Look at that, coming down, just kind of raining down, some lightning in the background. Also, I think Webster is the other place we were going to check, south of the metro. Do we have that video too? Yep, there it is. South of Metro, same deal. Yeah, it was something. It was something else. Didn't last all that long. Meteorologist Jared Piepenberg here now. Yeah, it's an active night for folks. I had a driver, my 17-year-old, who's not been driving for all that long, who came home and walked in and just went, oh, you know, and I knew she'd have trouble, and it was hard for mom at home to be like, okay, I know she's driving through this right now, but you got to just let her learn and figure it out, and you know, cars are stopping, and yeah, so it was something.
Yeah, summer's like, I'm not done yet.
Yeah,
you know, it's the first day of fall coming up here in like 50 minutes. It officially starts, you know, at 1:19. But yeah, summer's just like, hey, how about some more of this? And this kind of forecast coming up here is feeling like summer too.
That's the other thing. I think when I woke up this morning, I was listening to, I was like, wow. I mean, just looking ahead,
I know
it looks very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says.
Yeah, it's kind of, you know, being a meteorologist, like we have our really tough times of forecasting now. It's like we've been watching this, like, man, that after this slow-moving system from the weekend moves out, kind of looks like nothing's going to be happening for a while. So yeah, it's very tranquil.
Oh, have you been out to look at leaves or anything like that? Leaves?
In Maple Grove, believe it or not, there's a bunch of maples out there. so like, there's a couple roads that I take that are just like, some of the trees are the early season ones, so they're starting to change, and I know that's like early part of October up in Northwest Metro for me that I notice the most.
Yeah.
And it's most of the Twin Cities too that'll be looking really, really nice. But yeah, it's just like, I feel like it's a low-end percentage, but you're seeing them in your yard.
Starting to pop, and then go farther north, of course, and you'll see a lot more of those. So just looking at kind of, I mean, are we average rate?
Average right now is 71. And so the whole forecast this whole week is above average. Oh. Yeah, looking pretty good too.
Are we going to get really warm again? I thought I might have seen an 8. Did I see an 8?
Yeah, we had upper 70s. I think I'm just being a little conservative with the forecast, just because it's like, all right, are we really going to do that? But I wouldn't, like, some folks at the end of the week look like they will hit 80 degrees.
Really?
So yeah, it's looking really, there's the 70 right there. So yeah, looking really, really mild coming up here. And as I said, summer's just not letting go quite yet. I saw some dew points this morning are still in the lower 60s. So you can feel that moisture is stepping out the door, and all that moisture yesterday. Some places picked up over 3 inches of rain last night in southeast Metro. The two big hail, I know you were talking about the hail, and we saw the video. The two big hail reports were like eastern parts of Lake Minnetonka. There was a 2-inch hail, which is kind of the size of an egg, basically. And then around Woodbury, we had another report that was around 2 inches as well. Usually with those storms that drop that, it's only a couple hailstones, but you know, still that can do some damage.
It sure can. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, great. Well, I mean, no news is good news, I guess, on the weather front this time of year, at least, when you can.
I've been saying that, you know, this is a good time to seed your lawn. A lot of folks are probably going to need to water too, because this whole forecast now looks really dry too. So for you, you might have to help it out a little bit.
Water the lawn. All right. Thanks, Jared. Appreciate you stopping in with that. We'll talk to you a little bit later. We're going to take a break. We'll take a little Zen moment. Oh gosh, I didn't clean up the house before I guess. I'm so sorry. We're going to have a Zen. Could you Zen moment for you here? We'll be right back. And welcome back. Just a couple of headlines that we wanted to let you know we're keeping an eye on. We are expecting to hear from President Trump in a couple of hours from now from the White House. He's been talking about this he's calling it a historic announcement related to autism. And we know that White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is holding a briefing right now, having a chance to dip into that. I don't see anything coming out of that necessarily, so we'll bring you more information as we do. I believe 3 o'clock is when we're expecting that. And then just looking ahead to tomorrow, just wanted to let you know about something we're going to be covering. Former State Senator Nicole Mitchell will be sentenced. She was found guilty of breaking into her stepmother's home in Detroit Lakes, and her attorneys are apparently asking for a lighter sentence, submitted some letters of support from people in her life, and she has since resigned from her Senate seat. So that is all happening tomorrow as well. We wanted to just take a second to talk a little bit about what's happening on our roads, because it feels like it's just constantly in flux, right? Things are always changing, and voila, again today, Lauren, we come in here and you said there's more changing.
Yeah, there's a couple things to talk about, especially for folks who take public transportation. We don't talk about this a lot. It runs pretty routinely all summer long around the Twin Cities, but starting today, the whole Blue Line is going to shut down for 2 weeks. Ooh. And we don't see big shutdowns like this very often. I've just learned about the light rail. It is over 20 years old. It was built in 2004. The Blue Line and the Green Line were built. The Blue Line is in black here on the screen. It is the light rail that services Minneapolis from Target Field downtown all the way south through Richfield to MSP Airport and Mall of America. Starting at 10 o'clock, it's going to shut down all routes for the next 2 weeks until October 4th. They're doing some mega maintenance here to repair some of the light rail. So in the meantime, buses are going to run along this route at every single station, but Metro Transit is alerting commuters, and I've learned there are 17,000 of them per day. 17,000 people take the Blue Line. Plan ahead, get to where you need to go very early, because buses could take up to double the length to get you from point A to point B along the light rail, particularly in downtown Minneapolis. The good news is for the next 2 weeks, we don't have any home games for the Twins or the Vikings, so not going to be as busy as usual there in downtown Minneapolis. After this ends on October 4th, we'll be back up and running, and Metro Transit says services are going to run faster. Trains will be running from every station every 12 minutes starting at 7 a.m. So that is good news for commuters. A couple other closures I want to tell you about. 494 is going to close down again tonight and tomorrow. Here's the map of the closure, what you can expect. Same overnight closures we saw last week. 35W to 77 will be shut down in both directions starting at 10 o'clock tonight until 5 a.m. tomorrow. So if you have a flight or if you're going to the airport, plan ahead. 62 is going to be your detour. They're working on the Portland Avenue Bridge, and I think we have a shot of the work that they're doing right now over top of 494. Yeah, this has been kind of fun to watch. So they put up this grid over the week last week. You can see crews are working on it right now. And so overnight tonight and tomorrow, what I think they're going to do is add the bridge decking to the other side of 494.
Is this looking east?
This is looking east, yeah. So this is looking toward the airport right now. That's where we're headed. Okay. And Portland Avenue has been closed for the last year over 494, as well as all of the ramps. So the road won't be open this season, but we will see a bridge over 494, and then next year they'll work on finishing it so we can finally use Portland Avenue again in Richfield over 494. So that's good news.
Good stuff.
Over to Highway 100 in Edina. We've been talking about this construction project for a couple of months now. Lane closures returned today. It impacted our morning commute in a pretty big way, and overnight closures are going to return tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday. This is the stretch of 100 that takes you through Edina between Excelsior and Benton. Highway or 50th Street is right in between here, and that's the bridge that they're working on. They're also digging up the entire interchange between 50th Street, Vernon Avenue, and Highway 100. We reported on this a couple weeks ago because they ran into a little bit of a snag with a permit. Some good news here. What we learned on Friday is that it sounds like XL and the Canadian Pacific Railroad have reached an agreement. They got that permit under control and construction can resume. as planned. Mary McGuire is working on this story today, so we'll hear more on the evening news tonight about when they hope to get this project wrapped up. We do know the bridge over Highway 100 is still set to reopen mid-November, but expect delays, especially driving overnight through Edina for the next couple of weeks. Here's a good story to wrap things up. We are in our final week of construction in downtown Minneapolis.
What?
This is the biggest project that I've heard from commuters who talk to me about their pains on the roads with road construction. We've been down to 2 lanes both directions basically since the spring, as they've worked on 5 different bridges here south of downtown Minneapolis. And this Saturday, the road is supposed to fully reopen, including all on and off ramps, which should majorly improve the morning and evening commutes and weekend traffic around downtown Minneapolis.
Say it again. When is it expected
This Saturday. This Saturday at noon. Specifically.
So that's
what is on the MnDOT calendar. I know on the weekends it doesn't always happen hour for hour the way that it's planned, but yes, this Saturday all barriers are supposed to be removed south of downtown Minneapolis, which I think this is the one that I've heard about the most.
Yeah.
From drivers. It's been a headache for anyone driving around Minneapolis.
I love that you hear from drivers because, you know, I mean, and there's probably nobody in this vicinity that knows more about the traffic patterns in the morning and which, you know.
Well, I find it so fascinating. Everyone kind of has their own adventure that they have to take to get to work every morning, and we've had a few major construction projects that have really slowed people down. So this is going to be good news for everyone who drives through Minneapolis.
Yay. All right. That's good stuff. All right. Well, thank you, Lauren. Appreciate it. Brian, we want to take a quick break and then... Nope. Oh, okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. Well, we'll cut you loose. You go on with your day. You've been here. Early bird has been here since way before a lot of us were even up this morning. So thank you, Lauren. I appreciate it. We're going to talk a little bit more about sports in the next hour and 20 minutes or so, because there's so much to talk about. Of course, we're going to talk Vikings, and then next hour we're going to really dig into that Lynx game as well, because it was spectacular and competitive, and it was just incredible. And of course, the Lynx came out on top, which we love. But yesterday, the Vikings game, I think a big part of the success yesterday, and what do I know, but I feel like that first drive really set the Vikings up for success. And of course, that was led by veteran quarterback Carson Wentz. Really set the tone. Team marches down, puts up a touchdown. Joining me now is Carson Wentz college QB coach at NDSU, newly retired Coach Randy Hedberg. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Thanks for having me, Amy. Enjoy it.
Well, so you've coached quite a few players who ended up in the NFL, to say the least. You've traveled to watch them. I know that. So I'm so curious. You were there yesterday. What was that like for you?
Well, it's the first regular season game I think I've seen during my coaching career. So for 45 years, that's the first regular season NFL game I've seen.
Oh, wow.
So in person.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and obviously seeing a former Bison out there playing quarterback was pretty special. So, yeah, that was neat. It was neat.
Did you have a chance to talk to Carson at all, like when he first found out he was coming here, or since then at all?
Yeah, we've traded, text messages back and forth before the game and after the game, and I just said yesterday after the game, I said, that was an impressive game, by him. When you take a look at it, Amy, and when he was signed in late August, he didn't get a chance to practice or play in any preseason games in the month of August, in July and August. And that's pretty impressive, coming in and doing what he did yesterday, being as efficient as he was. And I'm sure there are some things he wanted back from the game from yesterday. I know, he took 3 sacks in the first half, which, were impactful, especially the one, I think, no quarterback wants to take a sack on first down, and especially the one he took, that's one thing I think he'd want to get back in his repertoire if he could.
Yeah, I mean, you get on social media and the armchair quarterbacks are, he held the ball too long, that kind of thing. What did you see as it pertains to that?
I think as the game wore on, I think his timing became more evident. And, I think the way, the offense that O'Connell runs is a timing type offense. It's very similar, to what the 49ers run out in the West Coast and the Rams run, where everything's timing. And in talking to an NFL scout this past offseason in reference to the quarterback Cam Miller, who's now with the Raiders, that's all they're looking for is the timing throws. And I think as a game we're on, I really believe that Carson got better with those timing throws. And like I said to him yesterday after the game, you know, in my text message, I said, impressive game, but it's only going to get better as he keeps working on this offense. And I think that's going to be very apparent, especially the next couple of weeks when they're overseas playing.
Can we just go back to that first drive and kind of slow that down just a little bit and talk about what you saw? Because I think a lot of fans just had a big question mark. What is this going to look like? It could go 100 different ways. How did you see that first drive?
Well, I saw it, Amy. I saw them, you know, I really think they made a conscious effort to get TJ Hawkinson the ball. And I think that was pretty apparent yesterday, especially, you know, in the first drive and throughout the course of the game. And I think he's going to be a big factor in the middle of the field. Whereas, you know, Thielen and Jefferson are more outside guys and vertical type receivers, but TJ can work in between the hash marks. And I think you saw that. And I thought they made a very conscious effort to do that. And I think another thing that was really, really imperative during the course of the game, and one thing that I noticed, they were able to run the ball to the left side of the formation. And I think that's because of Darrisaw being back. Obviously, they had a lot of rushing yards on the left side of their formation, you know, and I think the young rookie at left guard is going to be a really good player. And, you know, I think it's only going to get better as long as those guys stay healthy running the ball. And Jordan Mason, I thought he was a beast yesterday. He looked really good, and I really like him as a running back.
Absolutely. Did you, when you saw Carson in that first drive, you know, knowing him so well, any idea kind of what his mentality was? Do you think he was nervous at all, given the different layers of it being so sentimental and all of that?
You know, it was interesting. I was looking for him on the sideline as the team came out to start the game, and I saw him come out. And then I lost him. And then I saw him talking to Mr. Wolf as he was walking back into the middle of the field. But from what I understand, he was down seeing his wife and kids down in the corner of the end zone, which I think is really a neat deal for Carson. Carson's a family guy. Family's really important to him, and I think that's he probably hadn't seen him for a while, because I know they're living in Indianapolis, and also, you know, they probably hasn't seen him since he joined the Vikings back in late August. But anyway, I think the thing that I noticed with him, I thought he was really excited for the game. And I was at the game with my son, who came up from Colorado to watch the game with me. And he mentioned this to me after the game. He said, you know, I noticed Carson after every score, whether it was a PAT or a field goal or wherever it was, he went out and greeted every player coming off the field. And I think that's really a neat deal, and that's what a leader does. And I think he was able to do that, and very noticeable to me, and I'm sure it was noticeable to the rest of his teammates.
Oh yeah, and it obviously we got to the point where it didn't make sense. I think, I'm just guessing, not playing coach here, but it didn't make sense to keep him in there until the end of the game. Got a chance for the young Max Brosmer to get in there, but you know, him coming out at that point, you know, how do you think he was feeling? Is he the kind of guy that just will let that soak in for a minute, or is he kind of like on to the next? You know, this is great, but we got work to do.
That's, you know, I would think he would take that and just take in the whole crowd. It was a great crowd yesterday, and very vocal, and you know, that's a good part about being on the home team when you're playing at US Bank Stadium. Offensively, you don't have that noise, whereas the defense does. But it's similar to him playing in the Fargo Dome, where offensively there's a lot of noise for the opponent's offense, but when we're on offense as a Bison team, it's quiet, and I think that's a big thing. But he took it all in. I think it was a big deal for him. He made reference to it after the game in his press conference, how impactful it was for him being back with the purple and gold, and I think that's a big deal. And it would be for me also.
And you alluded to this, I'm going to wrap up here. You alluded to this in just a minute ago, saying that you think it's just going to get better. I mean, for those who aren't used to watching Carson, yesterday I feel like we got a steady, reliable quarterback. Do you think that there's a lot of room there for him to kind of explode, or do you feel like he's kind of in that zone, but will just kind of steadily improve?
I think he's going to get better and better in the offense. I really do, Amy. You go back, and I might have mentioned this to you earlier on a previous broadcast, but he was having an MVP year in, I don't know what year it was, 19 or 20 or so, one of those years when the Philly won the Super Bowl, then he got hurt. Yeah. And so he's battled some injuries and all, and if he gets an opportunity, I think good things are going to happen. And I really feel it's a good opportunity for the Vikings. So it'll be good, and I think it'll be a very good upward curve for him.
Yeah, well, a lot of people really excited for him. I know he had a big contingency in the crowd yesterday. I heard, though, Coach, that they couldn't watch it in Bismarck. I guess the TV stations or something, they played another game, and so they couldn't even watch it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I heard on social media.
Is that right?
I hope it's not true, but somebody was saying they took the Steelers game or something instead, and people are like, come on, man. Yeah, so I'm glad you were there, and just what a great nod to you and to the staff at NDSU and that athletic program, specifically the football program. Thanks for joining us here, kind of Monday morning quarterbacking this thing with us. Yeah. We always appreciate your time.
Appreciate it, Amy.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, Coach. We'll see you.
Yeah, you bet.
All right. Let's take a quick break and come back. Much more here to come on All Day Live. We'll wrap this hour, but we have yet another hour to go. Some live events, including, I think, we're going to hear from Coach KOC himself coming up here at the top of the hour live. All Day Live continues after this. And welcome back. There's our friend Ryan Rablin.
Hello, Amy.
Present.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy Monday to you.
Happy Victory Monday,
Victory
Ryan.
Monday. Double Victory Monday.
Felt good. Felt really good yesterday.
Need it. We need one of those.
Yeah, we sure did. With Farm Aid happened over the weekend as well. I know we talked about it leading up to it. First time ever in Minnesota, which really is a great crazy to think about. 2025, I know we had Kara, I think, make some calls on this just to see if they had anything, any numbers, money raised, attendance, that kind of thing. Oh, there she is. Yeah. There she is. Hey,
not
Kara.
yet.
Hello.
Nothing yet, huh?
No, I didn't hear back. I think the PR person I had spoken to previously, she has a few days off, which good for her after all that. So I have not heard back on the numbers.
Okay. All right. Well, do we know anything about like previous years or anything? Do we meant to look that up as far as money or do we?
Last year they raised $1.5 million, and then by December they had distributed $1.1 million.
Okay.
To family farms. I'm not sure what they did with the rest of that money. I didn't get too far into that. Okay. And I know overall, not including this year, they've raised $85 million.
Nice.
So that's $85 million in 39 years.
Incredible. Ryan, did you go? Did you get a chance to go?
I did not go, but Kara did.
I did go, yes.
How was it?
It was fun. I got tickets the night before at like 10 p.m. So I had not prepared myself or really even done much research into what to expect for the day. Yeah. I found out after I got the tickets, because I'd gotten the tickets with my boyfriend because he was into it and he was like, I want to do this. And he was like, yeah, it starts at 12:30 p.m., which I had no idea. So we committed to 12 hours in the stadium before I even realized that it wasn't like a 5-hour event.
And they wouldn't let people come and go, it was my understanding too. So once you got in, you were in.
You were in the stadium for 12 hours.
Did you have everything you needed? I mean, I'm guessing there's food and things you can buy there, but...
I guess. I mean, you had to spend $8 on a bottle of water, but then you could refill it.
Sounds about right. Yeah, well, you could refill it. That's good.
But, do you pack a book or a magazine?
I mean, maybe I should have.
So how did it work? It was just kind of one act after another on that on one stage, right?
It was
did you like
one
that?
Stage. I think I would have preferred if it was multiple stages, but also it's kind of nice where it's like you're able to see every single artist rather than have to like run around between stages. So that was nice, but I guess I've never been to a music festival. What'd you say?
Who was your favorite act of all of them?
I really liked Neil Young. I was impressed. I also really like Billy Strings. I'm not a Billy Strings person. Didn't really know much beforehand, but he was really impressive.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, you didn't. I mean, you're young. You didn't grow up like listening to a lot of these artists, right? I mean, was this kind of hearing some of them for the first time?
Not as much. I mean, I knew some because like my parents and my grandparents, like all they listen to I think is like Willie Nelson and like that kind of like older country. Yeah. So I grew up around a lot of it, but I don't really seek it out.
All right. Well, sounds like it was a long day, but a good one. Hopefully if you went, you had a good time as well. That's a long time for concerts. Whoa.
It was a long day.
Long day. Thank you, Kara. Thanks for popping in. We're going to wrap up this hour though and take you to commercial, and then we'll start all over again. 1 o'clock. We got a KOC presser, we think, live?
Correct. We're waiting for him. The shot is up. I'm looking for it now. So.
Okay. Well, we'll be right back after this, hopefully with KOC live. Welcome back to All Day Live. It's 1 o'clock. Moving into the second hour on what looks like a really beautiful day here in the metro. Hope you had a great weekend. And Jared was telling us that the forecast looks really easy, really good for the rest of the week if this is what you like. Just mild temperatures, not a whole lot going on, so hopefully you can get out and enjoy it. We are expecting to hear from Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell here any moment. He's supposed to be having a live press conference, some media availability at 1 o'clock, and they're usually pretty close to on time, so Ryan's got his eye on that. And Ryan, I don't know if it looks like we're getting close or nobody yet.
Empty podium right now.
That could change like that.
The media is seated and awaiting, ready to go here. So
sounds good.
I hope we're close. Here.
Okay.
We're looking at that door on the right. Oh, you can't see.
Oh, I can't see it. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Oh, yep, there it is. There's the media room. Let's see.
Looks like a classroom.
It does, yeah. It does. Dawn always talks about that when she does live shots, and there's beautiful facility. Is that Jimmy? No.
I don't know if Jimmy's there today.
I don't see. Sorry, my eyes are really bad.
But I think Don Mitchell is there.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Representing Fox 9, representing All Day. We will hear from Pierre Nugent later in the show.
Okay.
He watched the game. Amy, I know you watched, right?
I did. Yeah. I really, I'm going to be honest, going into that game, I just had no expectations. I just felt kind of flat. Like I really was like, I guess I'll watch, because I just felt, after all the injury reports and everything, you just kind of think, well, what is this going to bring? And then it just started with a bang and just never really stopped. And then it got to be the end of the second quarter, and it felt like we'd been playing for 4 hours, and the score was, was what it was. So just crazy, just really, really crazy.
I had them, and nobody will believe me, but I had them winning, not the way that they won by any means, but I had them winning this game. I thought Cincinnati, with Joe Burrow out, Jake Browning, while he did have some success last week, he also turned the ball over 3 times, and turnovers were a massive problem, not all on Jake Browning. But, we capitalized on Isaiah Rodgers specifically capitalized on those. So, an incredible performance. I thought I saw something that this was the biggest margin of victory by the Vikings since 1998. Was that famous 1998 season? So
that could be. I know they said on the broadcast it was in Bengals history that was the biggest deficit that they'd ever had. So a lot of history made. We know that speaking of, I know you're keeping an eye on the podium there, but speaking of Isaiah Rodgers, I don't know if you saw this, and those of us who don't really understand this kind of thing, the highest graded game in PFF history, Isaiah Rodgers with a 99.9, is that right?
Sounds good, right? Yeah, they grade players based on performances. It's kind of more of your, it goes a little bit above my head.
Yeah. But huge deal what he did yesterday. When you stack it all up, never been done before in Vikings history either. So just incredible. We'll talk about the Lynx a little bit later. We'll get in depth. Don't worry, Lynx fans, we got you covered, because that was also a phenomenal win by your Minnesota Lynx. It was a nail biter for most of the game, the first half especially. But I don't know, you watch enough Lynx games, and you just know that they outlast their opponent, and they clinch. They just do, and that's this team, which is why I feel like they have to win this year. This is their year. If there was ever, last year was their year. They got robbed. But this is for real their year. Yeah. So they deserve it so much. It's such a feel-good storyline with just how they really are like family. You hear it all the time, but man, do they really live it, and you can see it, and it shows. So congratulations to the Lynx on winning one. There's one down, best of 5 with Phoenix, and it's gonna be a tough series. That Phoenix team is more physical than I realized. I was getting a little spicy at home. I was getting a little defensive of my team, because they got pushed around a little bit too much, and I didn't like that. But
another game at home coming up, game 2, right? Yeah, Target
Tuesday.
Center.
Yep,
Tuesday night. Then out to Phoenix for games 3 and 4.
You got it.
And then We won't even talk beyond that.
I mean, maybe, if they come home, they come home. But I don't want to get arrogant. But because they're a good team, Phoenix is a good team, and they were coming off of, they had to kind of flip their script really quick and get back into action, whereas the Lynx had something like 89 hours between their previous game and
we talked about that last week, that all the other series went to a decisive game 3, and the Lynx were the only ones to close it out in 2, so they got a little extra rest, so that's always good.
I know it. Yeah, just so fun. If you're not watching, I would highly recommend it. Just beyond just watching the sport, it's just there's so many storylines, and so you can just get so connected to the different players and their personalities, and it's a blast. And they just win. They just win.
And they just win. They get to stage themselves on Tuesday. No NFL. None of that. So
I heard this morning, I think, was it Kelly or somebody was saying on the air this morning that they have a concert in between. So they have something and then at a Target Center, and then they have to flip it to a concert and then flip it right back for the Lynx. So
it is crazy how they do that sometimes, but those crews are professionals at that.
They really are. I know we are also queuing up an interview here that that I'm really looking forward to, and I hope, I know we were going to be a little bit fluid with this KOC presser, but it's on political violence and the rise in political violence. And the only way that we wanted to do this is if we could kind of bring some data forward and just keep it straightforward on what the data is showing us. And so this is a group that tracks it, has been for 20 years, and has tracked it even through the events of the last couple of weeks. So we'll dig into some of that as well here coming up as we wait for KOC. I can start. I don't know if we can put the presser back up, and I can keep an eye on it too, or you can let me know, Ryan. But if you want, I can run through, just start going through some of the headlines as we wait here, and then as soon as it gets going. But we're talking a little bit about the Turning Point USA event that is happening here in the Twin Cities today, specifically at the University of Minnesota campus. So this is conservative activist Charlie Kirk's organization, and it was a scheduled stop on his American comeback tour, of course, before he was shot and killed in Utah just a little over 2 weeks ago. That, I believe, was the first stop. I think Colorado was the second stop where they did, and then this was going to be the third stop. They are not and did not do his trademark prove me wrong debate where he is under the tent and he sets up the microphone and people can come up and debate. They did not do that. Instead, what they're doing tonight is at Northrop at 6:30. They're having conservative speaker Michael Knowles has said that he's going to be there facilitating some conversation, answering some questions. Security, of course, top of mind for folks. We know that this was a pre-registration event. It is sold out, and they have very strict security protocols to get in. It's 18 and over, government-issued ID. Very small bag, clear bag is allowed in, and that is about it. And so security's been heightened there and also around campus, in and around campus as well. So there's also a vigil this evening, 7 o'clock at the state capitol. If that's something, I believe that is going to be more for the public. If you wanted to attend that, 7 o'clock tonight at the state capitol. So that is one thing that we're kind of keeping an eye on today. And then the other thing that we've been watching here is in a couple of hours, President Trump expecting to make an announcement from the White House, a historic announcement, he says, about that's connected to autism. Also, just we can mention right now while we're waiting, Ryan, that we are hosting, Fox 9 is hosting a roundtable that's going to be happening. If you want to stay tuned right after we're done here, this is just really, I think, a really good opportunity, especially if you are curious or if you're invested in any way, shape, or form in downtown St. Paul. They're going to be taking a look at the challenges and the opportunities. And we talked to Mayor Melvin Carter of St. Paul just about an hour ago. He was here and we chatted a little bit about it and teased it just a tiny bit, but didn't want to steal too much thunder because this is a roundtable that's being put on by Fox 9. Randy Meyer is going to be hosting it. Our Joe Augustine from our investigative unit is helping to facilitate that and produce that as well. And that is happening this afternoon. Leaders from all different sectors. CEO of the Wild's going to be there, the Downtown Alliance from St. Paul, some politicians, some other stakeholders, people who really have a vested interest in what happens in downtown and just really trying to breathe some life into that area as well. So that's coming up at 2 o'clock today. All right. We're going to kind of just, do you want to, okay, we can do that. Yeah, we can either, usually, Ryan, I'm really surprised because they are usually right on time. So, gathering some more information maybe. So many accolades, they got to pull together all these stats. Why don't we do this? Why don't we take a quick break, and then we're going to check in with our guest who's scheduled here in just a little bit, Cleaner Raleigh as well, Ryan. So let's do that, and we'll come right back. All Day Live will continue. Stick with us right after this. All right, as we wait for that live press conference, we're going to go ahead with our interview here, and we'll take you there in just a little bit. But if it seems like political violence is on the rise in the U.S., the data definitely shows that it is. The questions now are, who's behind it? Is it extremist groups, militias? Are we seeing signs of a civil war, as some people have said? Again, there's some new data, and it shows that the greatest threat to security and democracy here in the U.S. is isolated lone extremists. Cleaner Raleigh founded ACLED 20 years ago. It's the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, a nonprofit that tracks political violence and protests nationwide. That data used by media, governments, NGOs. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Amy. Lovely to see you.
You know, every time we talk, you bring a lot of insight, data-based insight, which is why we appreciate having you on. You did a deep dive here, and the data on these lone extremists, you know, makes sense, I think, to a lot of us here in the U.S. when we think about the most recent violent attacks. So what are some of your takeaways from the research you've been doing?
So the situation in the U.S. is very tense. There's no debating that. But I would say that we often need to step back when we have a very public event, such as of course, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and look at the larger patterns. And they tell us three things about the U.S. The first is that there's a huge amount of protest activity. It's not quite as close to what it was in late 2020, but it's getting there. So it's quite high. That's usually very, very peaceful. There's about 50 protests a day in the States. The second is that there's quite a large number of extremist groups, and they are often far right, but not exclusively by any means. So they are preppers, and they can be white nationalists, they can be anti-Semitic, of course, anti-Muslim, many, many groups. And the states in which we find these most prevalent is in Montana and Arizona. So the third group, which is I think the one that we have been really, really concerned about, is the lone wolves. So these are armed, quite dangerous. They are politically very malleable, so they move between political ideologies if they have one at all, and they're often used by political figures after the fact to sometimes blame the other side or to indicate that, for example, one side is advocating violence, when really that type of violence by these lone wolves affects all types of people, all types of political persuasion.
So this is really what I wanted to drill down on, because as I was looking through this, a lot of these situations, we go to the politically motivated, and this is coming from the law enforcement and others who are saying this was politically motivated. I think and correct me if I'm wrong, because a lot of this is so confusing, not on your part, but just there's so much out there. You say that these lone shooters do not display any partisan inclination. You kind of referenced that here in the word that you used. I know you used incoherent was one word that I picked up on, and then you used another one here as well, malleable. So I guess my question is, when we have something like, for instance, Charlie Kirk's death, and we hear that this is politically motivated, how should we unpack that and then move forward in our conversations?
So the way that I would do so is by thinking that there's quite a lot of polarization in the US, and it's based on political parties, so Republicans and Democrats. But these killings and the people who perpetuate them do not belong to those camps, right? They may have a political belief that has become so, to be honest, twisted that they can believe it justifies violence. But it is not partisan in that way. And things in the US, when they are political, are often heavily partisan. But I would say that, having a ex post facto justification for why somebody killed, whether it is, for example, your representatives in the Minnesotan House, or children, or Charlie Kirk, or whomever, they often will tie it to a pretty incoherent belief. And then after the fact, people try to locate that within what we know to be political, but it's really quite a bad fit.
Interesting. So, the million-dollar question then is just how do we stop? How do we minimize these individual acts of evil? How do you try to get ahead of that?
Well, I mean, it's cold comfort, but the U.S. is no more polarized than a lot of countries. It's got no more intense political beliefs than a lot of countries. The difference in the U.S. compared to many other countries, whether it's Britain or France or Germany or wherever, is that there's a huge number of guns available in the U.S. for people who have extreme political beliefs to choose a public representative or a public space to destroy the safety of the general public. So obviously gun control is a much bigger issue for the US than simply as a reaction, for example, to these lone wolves. But it is what distinguishes the US from other countries that face also political partisanship or polarization. But I would say for this, I think that there needs to be a sense that no one is going to seek to build on these tragedies by pursuing other means. So this is, of course, what the bigger argument is this week, which is how the Trump administration or how the left has typically used these types of events in order to accuse the other side of extremism.
Yeah, that's part of the reason we wanted to have you on. And I know as soon as you said the gun word, I know people at home are going this way and they're going this way because, we really try to stick to the data. And I know you get that too. That is such an issue that is just so contentious in our country right now. And just so taking a look at the data, what you're saying is that access is what differentiates us from these other countries. And then to your point, there are other experts who can kind of unpack some of that for us as well. I guess, moving forward, I mean, you gave us some perspective as far as how what's different from us and the other parts of the world, I guess. What would be your advice as far as conversation goes, whether it be the media, with our family and friends at home, politicians? We interview them often, and I often want to ask them, will you call this out or will you not say this? We see a lot of that happening. What would, from where you sit, what would you say would be the most productive way to move forward in conversations?
Well, I think that we've all noticed, especially in the US, that there's been an intensification of people's political beliefs and often a distancing between them and others as a result of those beliefs. And that distance is what really makes it likely that somebody will see somebody else as a threat or somebody to attack because of a political belief. And I do believe that the vast majority of Americans are not there at all. You know, they have friends and colleagues and family members from all different political persuasions. But, you know, having your identity be so solidly located in often quite extreme political views is bad for yourself and bad for society and bad for everybody else. So, but what I would say is that the reaction to this killing is, of course, extremely intense. He was a young man and he had a family, and he was effectively being a public speaker when this happened, and it's a tragedy. What I think needs to happen more broadly is that we should understand the varied nature of violence in the U.S. has never been zero, right? We've never been a country that has never had political violence. Just different types tend to become more prevalent at different times. And at the moment, this is a really serious one. And it's become that way in part because there's very little consequence for the shooters when they engage in this type of violence. But to have, again, relatively cold comfort, the extremist groups that were, of course, related to the January 6th, 2021 incident, they have largely become quite performative rather than active in their groups. So there's always a way in which there's an ebb and the flow to whether or not people believe that they should be publicly violent.
All right, Cleaner Raleigh, we really appreciate it. If folks want to learn more, ACLED, it's ACLED, again, the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project. This is the first time we've actually talked about something here in the U.S. Typically, when we've chatted with you, it's been about, you know, the Middle East or other places. But you really, if you go on the website, if anybody's interested, it really lays it out in a very sort of easy is not the right word, but user-friendly way to understand, and you literally track everything in every country. So we really appreciate you spending some time with us today. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, let's take you over now. I believe we can switch right over. This is KOC talking about yesterday's game.
Harrison Smith back. How much does that change the defense in terms of disguises and checks?
Yeah, I mean, you guys probably felt it. The disguises, the timing of certain things, the synced up feeling of our defense all day. I thought Flo called a great game as well, and kind of, you know, Harry being out there probably led to some of that as well. But it was a combination of Flo, the staff, and then you know, between having Gink and Harry back for however limited it was, it just provided a sense of calm amongst the chaos they're trying to cause that is kind of part of our secret sauce on defense, and they made it come to life in an extraordinary way.
Kevin, if Donovan was cleared to play this past game, why have the surgery now?
I think you know, my interpretation of it is an injury where you do want to get it fixed in a timely manner to enhance the ability for the success of it. And it was not really a 3 or 4 or 5 days as much as, you know, you don't want to ask a young player to try to make a decision like that, knowing, you know, specifically Blake will, you know, step in, and, you know, he was able to seamlessly step in once CD's day had kind of wrapped up at tackle. Now Blake, you know, hopefully with RK coming back in the middle, you've got a guy that started 18 games a year ago at that left guard spot, available to come in, and had a great training camp. And Blake's shown his versatility and that impact, but we want to make sure we get Donovan healthy and use the time that we have allotted to maximize as many games as we can get, hopefully with him healthy coming off of this.
So when he comes off the field gushing blood out of his nose, are you thinking, you know, what else can go wrong up front here?
It's crazy to say this, but I was actually very relieved when I got out there and quickly saw what it was. But yeah, you know, there's some times up here where I'm sure what I'm saying is being absorbed as coach speak, but me talking about Donovan this afternoon is not one of those times. For him to do what he did was huge for us, and win because of type of performance coupled with mentally going through the process of the week, the layers to it with comprehensive and detailed we are with the medical staff, both in-house here, outside, evaluations and things, just making sure we were absolutely being smart about this. And, all along, Donovan just had that feel where, hey, I'm playing, I can play, I'm going to play. And I'm sure he would, possibly try to fight through it and worry about everything later, but sometimes you have to do what's in the best interest, especially of a really talented young player who we have really high aspirations on for not only the present but the future.
And, Tracy Wilson on CBS yesterday said that their plan is to get JJ back on the field after the bye. Is that accurate?
I would not say that's accurate. I would just say that that probably stems off the conversation of him making the trip with us, and I think what is accurate is the idea of no matter how much I believe JJ would go out there and tough it out, today, tomorrow, if we asked him to. To me, at this point in a very young career, his mobility is one of his weapons that has clearly already shown to be something that's a positive for him. So we want to make sure he's healthy and allow this to be something that we can put in the rearview mirror and continue on with, where he's at in his young career here. So, but yeah, we're going to take it a day at a time. He responded well to treatment early on. He's out of the boot, and now it just becomes the phase of high ankle kind of rehab that we're going to hopefully be able to get him back up to speed pretty quickly. And I think he, going on the trip and being around the team, we'll only have 2 players, I believe, not make the trip, and that'll be Gavin Bartholomew and Ty Chandler, just with where they're at kind of individually. But everybody else, including Donovan, after he returns later today or tomorrow morning from Los Angeles, he will go on the trip as well.
So when JJ is healthy, are you 100% committed that he's going to be back on the field?
Yeah, I think, the first and foremost, he's got to get healthy. And then throughout that process, it's not just, I don't think it's one of those things where it's, hey, the day he's healthy, and if he's healthy the night before a game, we're going to just throw him out there and say, hey, go figure it out type of thing. I think we saw, as phenomenal as he was getting prepared for the Atlanta game, he did miss practice that week. And when you're in the phasing of building up the 10,000 reps and 10,000 hours of what it takes to play the position at a very high level, which we know J.J. McCarthy is going to do, you can't cut corners on that. And that also doesn't require an answer on that question today. I think our goal was to win a football game yesterday. We're in the day after of that. We've had our players in. We're preparing for another, top-tier opponent, and I think we've got to have another really good week of preparation, and then you add on the layers to travel and making sure our players have the utmost confidence in how we're handling the trip and building it, progressively throughout the week till we get another opportunity, which we're really excited about.
When you talk about Carson being able to progress quickly, how much of a quarterback's ability to do that kind of goes into that 10,000 hours, that experience that he has to decipher things quickly?
Yeah, I mean, it's what allows players to play with poise and conviction, and when you couple that with firm and repeatable fundamentals, normally within the lower half of the quarterback's mechanics, you tie those things together, then you have a system, then you have rhythm, then you have the ability for, it's very difficult for a defense to take away all 5 eligibles. I thought our protection, because the way we were able to kind of have some body blows by running the ball, I thought our protection was solid for the most part. It got loose there on a couple internal games here and there, but many of the times we stayed efficient with the chains, and we stayed efficient in some cases not having many third downs in the course of some of our scoring drives. That equals rhythm too. So it's a combination of the individual player and all 11 individual players doing their job, maybe on that 1st and 10, maybe on that 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, in some cases 2nd and 20 when you steal 15 yards back with Justin getting single covered. Sometimes it's the reactionary ability to still consistently play with the rhythm and the poise and the decision making, and all that becomes much easier when you're taking the right footwork and you're balanced throughout the drop and reading with your feet, that can be an incredible weapon for a quarterback, whether they've played 20 years or they've played 2 games. That is an incredible weapon, and I think there's value in JJ seeing that. We were talking late last night, texting and kind of just talking about the game and just kind of what he experienced, because I thought, Josh made this point multiple times, how engaged JJ was. I mean, he was very, he was over there with the Surface tablet with Carson, talking about some looks that maybe we hadn't prepared for. Hey, did you see this? This is probably going to be this call. And, Josh was pretty jacked up about that. And then JJ just saying, how by Carson playing in rhythm and maybe progressing quickly on some things, just how much of a point guard feel it kind of had at times. All of that is real positive from a standpoint of, that's the one thing you love about him. He's going to find positives in even a situation where he can't be on the field because of an injury currently, which is growth in my mind, whether he was out there or not.
Last two.
Kevin, have you guys offensively seen more man coverage than you thought you would early on?
No, and even the man coverage we have seen has come out of the 2 high alignments where there's either a interior second or third level helper, so people can play with leverage. There's man coverage where I've got to play right down the middle of my man because there's a 5-man pressure, or I'm not anticipating any help. And then there's layered man coverage where either it's a rolled adjusting program and they can play hard inside leverage. It's an interior double team, which we saw a couple times throughout the game, whether it's the same side safety or a far side safety. So no matter what, if you have hard outside leverage, you probably have it for a reason, because you're probably running into where the help is. And if it's inside leverage, there's probably somebody over the top. So what that requires is an elite level of technique and a release plan to try to beat the nearest defender, and then be able to have a plan for the furthest defender away. And people are changing up the looks of whether that of how those double teams kind of come. But I think in the process of that, that's where the progression of the quarterback lies. And if they're doing all those things, there's probably somebody who had to play it a little bit more straight up around the field. We saw that on there was a conversion to Jalen Naylor where, regardless of whether it's man or zone, Justin's on the opposite side of the field, TJ's working vertical, trying to win, and then Speedy ends up winning that inside leverage late, and Carson progresses, pocket movement, completion, first down, and it doesn't seem overly challenging, but yet there's a lot of components to that make those things positive plays. And to me, it's about the voids, the vacancies. It's about finding not everybody on the play with how we build plays is going to have difficult leverage. So if you progress in rhythm, you're going to find that eligible with the leverage that can win. And then our guys are doing a good job winning. And we just got to trust that and keep on pairing the protection with tight fundamentals, techniques, and progressions, and then the receivers just got to keep doing their jobs, which they've been really good at. And I think we're going to start seeing more and more kind of benefit from that showing up in the stat sheet maybe than it has early on in the year.
Oh, you work Jordan Addison back in this week when his suspension is done.
Yeah, he's it's phenomenal to get him back. It was just like it was a shot of life for us to get CD Gink and Harry back. It'll be Jordan, it'll be Ryan Kelly, it'll be School being available as well. So we're, although we've had to kind of weather the storm a little bit early on, anytime you can get such impactful players back, it's critical. And I think Jordan, I know he's going to be in great shape. He's been able to be in the building and be in meetings and things to stay sharp mentally. And so now it'll just be getting him a full week of work. And you look at the way, Speedy, Jalen Naylor's been, consistently on tape, one of the guys that pops off the tape. I think Adam Thielen, although, the targets and the reception numbers might not be there, he has been wildly impactful in my mind with some of the jobs we've asked him to do, run game, helping a little bit out on the edges here and there. And then his opportunities will come. We almost had one early on in the game there where Carson tried to find him kind of off of a hard run action action where he had to move up in the pocket, and we're going to have some ops like that to add him throughout the year. And now the way I look at it is with Jordan back, we really have 4 starters at that receiver position, and we'll use those guys accordingly and try to keep people fresh and make sure we're maximizing the fact that we've got really good depth at that position. Thank you.
All right, Kevin O'Connell, right there.
There you have it.
In living color.
And Amy, I'll jump in because he was asked about it, and before we got to it, he had talked about the rookie offensive lineman Donovan Jackson had wrist surgery today, so he will be expected to miss a few weeks here. Okay. They're hoping maybe to have him back after the bye week. So, you know, as we know, overseas for 2 weeks, then the bye, and then coming back. So hopefully that's the timeline there for Donovan Jackson.
Okay, yeah, Dublin and London coming up,
that?
Going and hitting on a high right there. I mean, just what a way to kick off that European tour, which you know, Fox 9's going to be all over it. Just saying, all over it. Good to go. You can count on us for sure. You're home of the Vikings. Do you want to take a break?
Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with our friend Corin on the other side.
Oh, great. Okay, that sounds good. Some more headlines for you as well. Stay with us. All Day Live continues after this.
We've had a little mix of sun and clouds out there to kick off the day, and as we head the afternoon, expecting a little bit more sunshine to filter on through some of the clouds, depending on where we're at. It's pretty mild overall. Late last night had some scattered showers and thunderstorms moving out of the Twin Cities, and it was even around the area early this morning. Now anything remaining is going to be down in southeastern part of the state. There's a frontal boundary. It's just setting up shop really close to that border with Iowa. So some scattered showers and thunderstorms possible just south of Rochester around Albert Lee, and that'll linger in the afternoon. Dry one for the Twin Cities and most of the rest of the state, and actually just really quiet weather for us. Overnight tonight, we'll continue to clear on out for a little while. May lead to some patchy dense fog, and then with a very light wind coming out of the northeast off Lake Superior, that may just keep the eastern side of the state with some clouds and temperatures maybe just slightly cooler than the western part of Minnesota for your Tuesday. But eventually, I think the sunshine will win that battle with the cloud deck by the afternoon hours of Tuesday. There's really not a whole lot going on here when we're talking about forecasts of cloud timing. Had those showers and thunderstorms very early this morning. Clouds continue to decrease throughout the day. 74, 58 for tonight. A little patchy fog here and there, and tomorrow looks quite pleasant. 73 in light winds, and there isn't much wind in this forecast with extremely mild weather along the way. Our first day of fall above average. Average high temp now is 71. We're up to 74 later on. 73 tomorrow, 72 on Wednesday, and then temperatures get a nice little boost for Thursday and Friday, and looks like that will last all of the weekend. We are missing out on precipitation coming up here with those daytime highs in the 70s and overnight lows in the 50s. It should be a very dry and mild weather pattern coming up. All day continues straight ahead.
And welcome back to All Day Live. Coming up on 1:40 this afternoon, we're glad that you're with us. One of the stories that we are working on for later this evening for our newscast is Corin Hockert is working on, and it is it's been a complicated story, one that's stretched out here over weeks, if not months. Corin, bring us up to speed on where we are over this controversial encampment.
Yeah, so I think it was in July that the city started trying to move people out of this homeless encampment. That's private property, belongs to a real estate developer named Hamoudi Sabri. I think people have followed a lot of this over time, but eventually they shut that down right around the time that there was a mass shooting there. And today, basically, it sounds like there's a hearing here in court, and it sounds like from my conversation with Hamoudi Sabri last week, he's reached some sort of agreement with the city of Minneapolis about how to handle this moving forward. Okay. And the judge today is just checking in to see if a stipulation that they reached, basically the agreement that they reached, is still moving forward. Because the city did eventually file a lawsuit calling this place a public nuisance and trying to basically get the right to shut it down. It was shut down. Sabri shut it down, I guess, of his own accord, from what it sounds like, but right after a mass shooting on which, Minneapolis police had to go in there. So, yeah, a very messy situation that it sounds like may have reached a resolution, and we're just going to check and make sure that that's the case.
Okay, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because the two sides were pretty far apart, and there was a pretty deep line drawn in that sand. But Mr. Sabri saying, I think, accusing the city of not doing enough, specifically Mayor Fry, to help those who needed a place to go. And so he was insisting that this is his property and that's what he wanted to do. But there were some investigations into the health and a public health nuisance, I think is what it was declared. So Corin, so that looks like it might be coming to a head. It's going to be interesting to see, because, like I said, they seemed like they were pretty far apart on this. So.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things, he's made a point that I've heard from other homeless advocates, and it seems realistic to me that basically they just move the people from the encampment from one location to the next. There isn't enough housing, overnight or long term for these folks. So the way I look at it is a tube of toothpaste that's closed, and you squeeze it and you move the toothpaste from one end to the other end, but it's still inside the toothpaste, container. Yeah. And that's how he's describing this. But he wasn't really offering any solutions, and there were, a lot of issues, like you mentioned, public nuisance issues. There was drug use there. There were drug sales there, most likely. According to the city, there were, problems with a lot of, cleanliness problems. There's a school right next door. So I think Mr. Sabri, from my conversation with him yesterday, realized that that's not a tenable solution there, to just let people go. But he was trying to figure out a way to it sounded like he wanted to acquire another property and maybe move it over there, give them kind of a long-term place to have an encampment, but also get some enforcement from the police for, anytime somebody's using the bathroom where they shouldn't in public, and things like that.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. So that hearing is this afternoon, coming up here soon?
Yeah, a little more than an hour away right now.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for checking in. We'll hear back from you here 5 o'clock or so to see what ended up happening. It'll be really interesting. Thanks, Corin.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. You want to take one more break, Ryan, and come back? Okay, let's do it. Let's take a break and come back, and we'll round out the show. We got some Lynx that we got to talk about. We talked a lot about the Vikings. There's a little bit more we want to talk about there as well. So stay with us. All Day Live continues right after this. And welcome back to All Day Live. 1:46 is your time. Just want to tell you about a couple of things here, a little housekeeping. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to be having Congressman Tom Emmer is going to be here. He'll be right here in the room with us, not via Zoom. So we've talked to him via Zoom before. This is the first time we've had him here in-house. If you have any questions that you would like him to answer, can't guarantee anything, but if you wanted to email allday@fox.com, we can definitely take some of your questions into consideration around some of the things that are happening. Obviously, he is the majority whip in the House, so has a really critical role as the kind of the person who's trying to gather the votes that they're going to be needing to move things forward here as they're looking at a potential government shutdown and the debates over the spending plan. And then also, I think he'll weigh in on things that are happening here locally as well. Governor Walz entering the race and some of the other things locally. So we'll talk to him about that again. Congressman Tom Emmer tomorrow. Questions to allday@fox.com. And then a reminder, I'll just tell you a little bit about what's going to be happening here after our show. So this won't be happening on the television side. So if you are just watching us on Fox 9 and you want to see this, you'll want to switch over to the Fox Local app and stream it either on your mobile device, or you can also stream that on your television as well. But if you are watching us through like cable or DirecTV or whatever you have, you will see regular programming. If you want to see this roundtable discussion, the future of downtown St. Paul is really going to be at the center of it. And our Randy Meyer is going to be facilitating that conversation with, I believe, 10 different stakeholders. And we're talking everybody from St. Paul Mayor Melvin Carter, who was just here a little while ago and previewed this for us. The CEO of The Wild is going to be there, Matt Maka, along with, eight others. And they're going to be representing a lot of different areas and industries and sectors that all have a vested interest on the health and of St. Paul and safety and security in St. Paul downtown specifically. So again, 2 o'clock, streaming on Fox Local, also on YouTube as well if you wanted to watch that. There's just been a lot. There's been so much that's developed over the course of the last few years in St. Paul, and had some really big struggles with a big equity firm pulled its entire portfolio of properties from the downtown area, and then the Skyways, of course, the businesses there, the businesses downtown have just been struggling. So looking at some of those, calling out some of those real struggles, and hopefully finding some places to work on things. All right, Ryan, how's it going?
It's going good. We're getting Pierre lined up right now, so we're gonna bring in Pierre, talk a little sports. Give me 1 second.
No sweat, no sweat.
I think he's ready. As long as our friend Pierre takes himself off mute, we're good to go.
Okay. I know we're years removed from the pandemic, and so many times I still find myself just not hitting that unmute.
He's ready though now.
Okay, great.
I'll get out of here.
Okay, and you want us to take it right up to the end of the hour, yeah, Ryan? Good. Yes, I'm pretty sure. Hi, Pierre.
Hi, Amy.
How are you?
Good. What's going on?
Well, not a whole lot. We haven't really, before we get into all this stuff, haven't really chatted with you, I don't think, in a lot of detail at least, about some of the amazing things that have been happening in your life, moving into another chapter.
Yeah. A lot of people have been asking me about married life, and it's actually, I find it to be very similar than engaged life. Just the paperwork is a little bit different at this point. So outside of that, it's been going great.
Good. I'm glad. Well, you look very happy, and we're super happy for you and your beautiful wife. Let's talk about what's going on. And I want to start with the Lynx. We've done quite a bit here with the Vikings over the course of the last couple of hours, but really got to talk about the team that just doesn't seem to let us down, and that's our Minnesota Lynx. Talk to us a little bit about Game 1 against Phoenix. What did you see? What did you like? What did you not like?
Well, I saw a team that has championship-type pedigree, poise, and experience. We saw that in the fourth quarter of yesterday's game, particularly from Courtney Williams, who just seems to just be, there's a term that, gets floated around in sports a lot, and it's the term, just a gamer. And that's what she is. She's a gamer. When the ball goes up in the air, she just has a way about her in terms of making her presence felt game in and game out. 23 points last night. What was it? 23, 8, 7, and 5 steals, something like that. A crazy stat line from Courtney Williams to lead her team. And, because it was touch and go there for a while in the game yesterday, Amy, in game one. It looked like Phoenix, especially in that third quarter, they started to pull away a little bit. I believe their largest lead was 8, if I'm not mistaken. And we were thinking to ourselves, oh boy, we're in a dogfight here with this team in game number one. But like I said, the championship pedigree kind of showed itself, and a team that has experience in the postseason and playing in these types of games, that was the team that emerged victorious yesterday, and that was Minnesota.
Yeah, and like you said, it was contentious. It seemed very evenly matched, but it felt like maybe Phoenix ran out of gas, or we stepped on the gas. Maybe a combination of both. Was it as physical as you thought it was going to be? Because that's one thing that stuck out to me yesterday, and not so much from us, but seeing Phoenix, their physicality was really surprising to me.
Well, it's not surprising to me in the sense that teams are going to have to play Minnesota that way, because Minnesota has been the team all season long that has had their way in terms of executing their offense and getting into the flow of their offensive sets. So it's not a surprise to me at all, really, that Phoenix tries to get you out of rhythm and out of timing. So that, in that sense, it's not as surprising to me. It's just up to Minnesota now, even though they won the game. They now know what to be ready for, and they have to be able to match that level of physicality as the playoffs continue. So they seem to handle it just fine. I know that probably all the fans are hoping that it's not as much of a nail biter every single game, but it's playoff time at this point. So, like I said, it's a team that's tested. They went through the ringer last year all the way up to Game 5 of the WNBA Finals, and this is the favorite to win the WNBA championship. And last night in the fourth quarter, they showed why they're the team that probably could very well end up hoisting the trophy when it's all said and done.
Yeah, no revenge game against the Liberty, but there'll be another tough team there in the end when they make it there. Okay, let's talk about the Vikings and yesterday. There's just a lot. There's a lot, I guess. So you just tell me. I mean, what do you think really stood out to you? I mean, is it the Isaiah Rodgers performance? Because that seems to be what everybody's talking about.
I mean, I think it has to be, because, I could sit here and I say, boy, I don't think I've ever seen a performance like that before. And then I'll say to myself, well, it's because we've never seen a performance like that before. It's historic in the way of what we saw from Isaiah Rodgers last night. And kudos to him and his ability to, because, it wasn't just the interception. It was the 2 forced fumbles, really, that he just had such great technique and presence of mind to get his hands on the football and just change the course of this game almost single-handedly. So he was absolutely terrific and will no doubt be the NFC's Defensive Player of the Week. But now moving forward, the injuries continue to pile up. I think I heard Ryan mention it a moment ago. You had Kevin O'Connell, the live stream going, that Donovan Jackson is now going to miss a little bit of time with a wrist injury. Hopefully he's avoided IR, but we are once again, Amy, looking from left to right on this starting offensive line, and this starting offensive line still has not played a full game together. They haven't played a single down together in 3 games, going from left to right. You finally get Christian Darrisaw back, and now Donovan Jackson has to leave the lineup, and we don't know if Ryan Kelly will be available to come back next week, coming off concussion, to start at center. So if Donovan Jackson doesn't go, Joe Huber is slated as your backup left guard. Blake Brandel, he's over at right guard. He's the backup at right guard. I mean, do they maybe slide him to left, or does Joe Huber start at left guard? These are some of the questions that the coaching staff is going to have to go through at this point before they prepare for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pittsburgh overseas. And so does it kind of feel to you like we have to get through the next, couple of weeks here to kind of get our wheels back on? And then even then it might take a little time.
It feels that way right now. It definitely feels that way right now in terms of the injuries up front. Of course, the injury to J.J. McCarthy. Jordan Addison is coming back from suspension. That's at least good news for the Vikings offense. And it's been an offense, even though yesterday they seemed to performed quite well. They were given the benefit in terms of short yardage situations, thanks to the defense, a lot of those occasions. But I think that, offensively, there were a lot of good things to take away from that game yesterday, particularly in the run game. Carson Wentz looked like he was poised, made good decisions, had time in the pocket, was sacked 3 times. I thought one of those was probably a little more so. I don't know if I would say it's more so his fault, but it was definitely a coverage sack for sure. I thought he could have got the ball out a little bit faster and avoided that one. But for the most part, Carson Wentz held the ship afloat, and that's what the Vikings need him to do for the next couple of weeks before J.J. McCarthy comes back, hopefully in that game against the Philadelphia Eagles, if not sooner.
Yeah, I was going to say, that would be tough to come back and have your first game back be against the Eagles. Maybe you can get a little time in London. So, all right, Pierre, thank you. Appreciate your time. We'll talk to you a little bit later.
Okay.
Right, see ya.
Bye.
Mr. Married Man now. Y'all getting married. It's so fun. Having babies and stuff. Not Pierre. You.
I was going to say, I didn't know that.
No. Talking about you, baby Henry.
Yeah, that's, so yeah.
All right.
He's still kidless as far as I know.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Although he'd be such a good, he's just
for sure.
a great guy.
For sure.
We all are. All right, we've got something coming up for our streaming friends here on Fox Local. If you want to continue to stream, coming up is a Fox 9 roundtable discussion on the future of downtown St. Paul. A really important discussion with a lot of VIPs at the table, including the mayor and others, to talk about hopefully they can just have a good discussion, maybe even come away with some ideas or solutions. So that's coming up here for our streaming friends. You're all our friends, but if you're streaming us, you'll be able to see that. And if you're watching us on Fox 9, you'll continue on with programming here. But come on over and stream with us and enjoy the conversation. Randy Meyer will be hosting that. That gets going here in a couple of seconds. All day live. We'll see you tomorrow at noon. Have a great day.